Howdy folks, Nathan here with some disturbing news for some of you. They can't put Hellcat engines in all of FCA vehicles forever. Nope. But I'll tell you what they are going to do. My opinion, and many opinions out there from many automotive journalists and experts, is that this new system, which has been introduced for the Jeep Wrangler, the 2021 4xe, well, that hybrid system is going to wind up in a ton of FCA vehicles. Now hear me out. I know a lot of you guys are thinking right now is the golden time for FCA in terms of shoving a massive supercharged engine into almost anything that's rear drive bias. And you're absolutely right. And it may continue for a little while. In fact, TFL Truck is buying a TRX. Yes. Why? Because, well, frankly, we can, and because we're dying to, and we're willing to mortgage our homes to do it. But the thing is, that is a temporary thing. Unfortunately, the reality is vehicles have to become more efficient. It's just going to be the rules of the road. Now, some companies are already way up on this. Ford right now is about to introduce an all-new 2021 Ford F-150 with a hybrid system. They're going to have an electric pickup truck. There's a ton of electric pickup trucks coming. And many people feel that they're much better for the environment. One company that's been a little bit absent when it's come to electrification has been FCA. I haven't seen any Rams that have really done anything when it comes to hybrids or electrification. Yeah, we've seen a diesel. The eco diesel is quite good, but we haven't seen anything else. That may change, and that's because of this vehicle behind me, the 4xe. Now let me explain first of all what this system is and why I feel it'll be revolutionary for all of FCA's products. We're going to call them FCA for now until they change their name, by the way, for those of you who are wondering. So, this is what we've got. Their system basically consists of a transmission and an engine, and then in between that, they have a clutch, an electric motor, a clutch, boom, transmission. So there is no torque converter, all right? Basically, this is the whole system. Now, the electric motor kicks in to either drive the vehicle entirely just on electric power or as a hybrid with the engine. Both of them click in, two clutches, power sends to the transmission, boom, you've got power to the wheels. It's actually a relatively simple system and it's relatively compact, so much so that they were able to stuff it into the Jeep Wrangler, which is once again what you see behind me, and the debut of the system. It is plug-in, so you can plug it in and get extra range right at your house or any EV charging station. Why is it a big deal? Well, let me explain the numbers. Horsepower is pretty good, but torque is what I'm talking about. 470 pound-feet of torque on this vehicle. Now, for those of you who are saying, well, you got that new Bronco coming out. That thing is going to be, really powerful with the EcoBoost. You're right. This has more torque and a lot more. That torque is going to be really useful off-road, and I've been saying this for a while. The idea of electric motors pushing you up and over rocks is actually pretty appealing because that maximum torque comes in pretty much at 0 RPM. The minute you touch the accelerator, you're getting maximum torque to the wheels. That's really good for climbing and for other off-road activities, not to mention the fact that it's just the idea of having that much torque on hand is pretty awesome. All right, so let's talk about the pros and cons of the system. Now, first of all, we are talking about a vehicle that'll have 400 miles range, about 50 miles per gallon MPGe is what they're calling it. That's what they're expecting. That means that in some cases, some of you guys could plug it in at home, unplug it when you have to go to work, drive it to work under all electric power, get to work, plug it back in. Basically go back and forth without touching gas. Eventually, it does have to cycle a little bit, but for the most part, if you drive it carefully, you won't have to drink any fuel over the short term, or very much. So, this vehicle, as equipped, has a few things that are required in order to make it work. Aside from that engine transmission setup I told you about with the 2 clutches and the electric motor, it requires batteries. The batteries are housed underneath the rear seat, and they're in a sealed unit. Now it's lithium ion. And that sealed unit, according to Jeep, is waterproof, and this vehicle can ford safely up to 30 inches of water. Okay, so we got all that. How does this translate to other vehicles? Well, first of all, there's a con. Right now, this vehicle, as equipped, can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Now, if you take that same powertrain and shove it into a pickup truck, that's not a lot. But what if you could change the powertrain just a little bit? Now, this one comes with the 2-liter turbo, basically the same 2-liter turbo that we had in our long-term Wrangler, the white one, if you guys recall. And I mean, power was pretty good. But the transmission is exactly the same transmission, the 8-speed, that is used on practically everything that FCA builds. It's a ZF 8-speed, okay? Now, let me explain what cars and trucks this could be put on. Here we go, ready? Technically speaking, this system with a V6, possibly even a V8, because they would bolt right on, basically, could go on to a Dodge Challenger, a Dodge Charger, a Dodge Durango, the Ram 1500, the Chrysler 300, yeah, they still build it, the Jeep Wrangler, obviously, Gladiator, Grand Cherokee, the upcoming Grand Wagoneer. Then, let's look at some of the other vehicles that's sort of outside. The Alfa Romeo Stelvio, or the Giulia. Even, technically speaking, if they could make it small enough, I suppose, the Fiat 124. Why not? Almost the entire lineup of vehicles that we're getting here in the United States could be electrified in a very short amount of time. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Jeep builds other vehicles that are front-wheel drive that don't have this transmission. Yes, and overseas, right now, the Jeep Renegade and the Compass now have a plug-in hybrid option, and I'm pretty sure that's coming here as well. And the numbers are pretty impressive for those vehicles. There is a reality here, folks, and that is that this system could wind up in almost everything that they build. Now, it doesn't mean that it'll replace those big V8s we were talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean that those things are going to go away. It could mean that they're augmented. So you could have a 5.7-liter V8 in one of these vehicles. Although it'd be interesting to see what happens if they shoved it inside of a Fiat 124. But no, in honesty, if you think about what they currently offer, the amount of space that this takes up, which this system isn't that much larger than the current transmission engine setup that you have in a regular vehicle. The idea is that if you could electrify the fleet as an option, you still could produce fire-breathing V8 engines for the rest of the fleet, at least for a little bit longer. Now, bear in mind, right now, there is a partnership you may have heard about that is in process and most likely will happen with Peugeot. And they will become a very different company. Peugeot actually has a lot of EV technology, a lot of small engine displacement and hybrid plug-in technology for smaller engines, front-wheel drive bias cars. And they have other partnerships out there with a variety of different automakers and high-tech companies for low burning emissions and whatnot. If they combine, and you take this technology with the technology that Peugeot's bringing in, it's entirely possible that FCA could go from being one of the more polluting-friendly companies to the least polluting companies, I should say. So they could go rather green in a very short amount of time. That's pretty interesting stuff. So one final thought on this. Yes, there are a couple penalties in terms of electrification. For one thing, weight. Yes, batteries are heavy. Adding an electric motor to a vehicle that already has a gas engine creates more complex problems for your mechanic, more complexity in general, and a more expensive vehicle. Absolutely true. But the more they build, the potential is the prices could go down, right? Plus supply and demand. Guys, if you demand it, they're going to supply it and they're going to make it cheaper and cheaper to make sure more people get it. I am really curious about the way this Jeep drives, because I think at the end of the day, it is a harbinger for the technology that is coming to the entire FCA fleet. Thanks for joining me, guys. This is Nathan. Don't forget to go to TFLcar.com, TFLtruck.com, and TFLoffroad.com, where we have lots of posted articles about this vehicle and others. I'll see you next time.